Rick, so good to see you. Welcome to Future You.
Hey, it's great to see both of you, Jeff and Michael. Thanks for including me.
Absolutely. So let's start at the most basic level. We're going to ask you to generalize a bit, or maybe a bit more than that, even. But speaking about today, the current state, what are the different ways that colleges put together their budgets?
Yeah, it's actually an important question, isn't it? Because it not only speaks to the rules of the game, but I think it really reflects an institution's philosophy on where decisions should be made. So, the truth is the overwhelming majority of institutional budgets are still centralized. Why is that? Well, one, it offers a lot more control, right? Especially in situations where resources might be scarce, where monitoring's not real robust. I think it also is probably a reflection of a CFO culture of having to control things, right? So it is where most of the world lives, where the decisions on where the money comes from and where it goes is made by a very few number of people in a very limited number of offices. Now, from those more traditional, highly controlled budget models, we kind of move to this continuum of decentralization. That's how I think about it. From hybrid models where we're taking money off the top to support base funding for administrative services, insurance, buildings, keeping the lights on, etc., right? But also institutional priorities all the way up to these full responsibility centered management models, these RCM models, they get called. And interestingly, as we think about that continuum, I'm actually seeing a move away from full RCM models in the current environment, especially at the less research intensive institutions. So those RCM models where really all the money is going into schools, colleges, they are then paying whether directly or they get taxed for those administrative services. A lot of institutions moved to RCM over the last, say, decades or so, and found that they really didn't need that level of complexity. They were very burdensome to administer. But here was the even bigger issue institutions are running into. As they moved more on the continuum to that RCM model, there wasn't enough funding available to fund the institution-wide initiatives, to fund the big strategies that institutions wanted to go after. So they're having to pull back from those models, maybe not all the way to a fully centralized model, but to something that's a bit more of a hybrid model.
So, what are the pros and cons, if you will, of being deeply centralized versus the more decentralization?
Yeah, I mean, back to where we started, kind of laying out the continuum. The big advantage of a centralized model is fewer surprises generally because you're accounting for everything right in one place. The trade-off is you're not inviting people into the conversation and the decisions about how to best put resources to use, people, time, and money. So you may not be capturing things from a fully transparent way. You may not be tapping into opportunity. You may not be tapping into the creativity at that level. Well, the flip side, on the RCM model is that resources can get trapped at too low a level. And so we may well be meeting the needs of the College of Arts and Sciences, but we may not have the funds to invest in new areas of opportunity, and we may not adequately be investing in more institution-wide initiatives, whether they be around salary or facilities or whatever the case might be. I think the reality is it's probably like less centralized or RCM. Sometimes that's how it gets painted. And there's probably, we could pull from the good things we find in all these models, in Rick Staisloff University, what would I like to see? Really strong business intelligence environment where we have the data we need, capacity's been built to understand it and make decisions, and there's good transparency and accountability. I would start there. And by transparency and accountability, what do I mean? Hey, what are the targets I'm supposed to hit? What's the enrollment? How much revenue am I supposed to generate from where? What's the expense side? What's the net revenue I'm supposed to generate? I'm always struck at the institutions we work with at how seldom deans, chairs, budget unit heads outside of instruction are given a clear sense of what good looks like and what they're supposed to be achieving. So I would start there. Good business intelligence. Secondly, that we have those clear targets on where people are supposed to be going. And then that there's accountability that, look, if you want to be in an academic or administrative leadership position, this is part of what you're going to deliver on. And if you don't, well, then we're going to have to find some other people to do that.